Hello and welcome to Weekly Open. You'd think maybe I knew how to do this, but I don't. Great to be with you all here today. We've got Cred and Don on the line and the chart of destiny that Don has presented for us. But Don, you're not on the left today. Cred, you are on the left. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, doing very well, thank you. It's a big week ahead.
Uh-oh.
One of those real big weeks. Yeah. But aside from that, doing well. Ledger, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Why is it a big week?
Just the calendar, mate. You know, I've got the
Okay.
DB tweet. Wednesday, we've got
Got it.
FOMC with the presser, some earnings for Meta, slightly less important. Thursday, Bank of England rates and ECB rates, as well as earnings for Apple, Google, and Microsoft. And Friday, we've got non-farm payrolls and unemployment. So, pick your poison as far as macro goes. And interestingly, Spain had some unexpectedly high inflation data come in. I think it was today, quite a bit above expectations. And in general, Europe and the UK just look a lot worse for wear than the US. I guess that'll be unsurprising to some. We'll kind of see what transpires. And for the FOMC, 25 basis point hike is, the market seems pretty set on that. So I'm guessing a lot more emphasis will be put on the press conference and how Powell's eyebrow moves and what that means for the market.
Interesting. Don, hello. How are you?
Good. Just enjoying life. It's miserably cold in Germany. Has been for a while. There's zero sun, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
I thought you were going to say thanks to that. It's miserably cold, so I'm doing great.
No, I'm not that much of a contrarian.
They forced me inside to trade, so I'm making money and everything is good.
I mean, that's fair enough. Yes, that's actually true. But I would still rather have it sunny. I like it better.
Yeah. Well, it's rainy here as well. Ours doesn't turn into snow very frequently, so we just get cold rain, and therefore it's my least favorite season. But nevertheless, podcasts that talk about weather are terrible, so let's talk about charts. They're only mildly less terrible. Don, you want to give us the lay of the land? We are somewhere between looks good and looks amazing.
Which is quite a good place to be, huh? After having been looking like shit the entire way down. It's looking good. I hate that I made this shot because now I don't have anything left to say. I'm like, well, but yeah, not much has changed since last week. We went up a little, but it's mostly been consolidation. And I think in general, as long as we stick around in the looks good zone, it's more likely that we're going to look better. As in, like, the longer we stay here, the more likely I think it is that we actually are going to kind of make it to 32K, which is kind of my target. That's where I want to go. Anything beyond that, I think, is a reach. But yeah, up 50% or something from the bottom, right? And it's not really pulling back, which is the best thing we could have, right? So the weekly chart, and this is what gets me excited, is basically it's a straight line up. And now we have the first week of consolidation, right? And we've seen that these moves on the lower time frames, for example, that these moves like to consolidate for a little bit and then actually have a second or third leg. I want to see the same on the weekly now. We had it on the daily where we went up straight, then went sideways, and then went straight up again. I could see the same thing happen here on the weekly time frame where we just kind of like chop around this 24K handle. It's the one that we talked about, like, I think 3 weeks ago, where you had your targets. Now it's like we're getting there. I think that could be a temporary kind of like a stepping stone. But yeah, nothing. I don't expect too much from it. And interestingly enough, we're gonna have the monthly close, right? Coming in a day, and it's gonna look amazing. And we might see like a little bit of a pullback into support next week. Not even sure if not next week, next month. I'm not even sure if that's gonna happen or not. But in general, we broke resistance. There is some form of support resistance at 23K, but it doesn't really matter too much to me. As long as we're trading above 19K, this just looks really, really good. And the same the same weekly, like we had the weekly target of 32K. I have a monthly target here of 35K, like that whole area, 32 to 35. That's where I want to be seeing how price reacts. Anything before that, I'll just hold on to the positions I've built and don't really see a reason to change them. And I mean, just looking on the low time frames as well, it just looks good, right? You see the weekly is just like starting to consolidate. The daily's been doing a little bit more of that. But in general, like what we've been doing is we've just been slow walking up, and we've had a little bit of a pullback today, aided by the S&P going down, right? But I mean, this is just a slow walk up, and it's been resulting in massive upside 2 times so far. Wouldn't be surprised if you get a third leg of that. So like maybe we're just going to consolidate on the weekly is just wrong, and we're just going to send it straight. Not entirely sure, but I'm kind of like, I'm just positioned. Could see it slow down here a little bit, but could also just see it straight up moon. So that's kind of my.
You could get a 10% drawdown off the top without really making any kind of dangerous lower or anything on the low time frames.
Yeah.
You mentioned my level around 24, and it is still roughly there. The 200-week moving average keeps moving up as it's still normalizing from the bull market, hadn't fully flattened out yet. So it's about 24.8 right now in terms of where, at least from a moving average perspective, that would tell you to calm down. I like putting that in consultation with other levels. So as y'all have noted, like the weekly close around 24.3 or whatever it was last August. I just think that whole area is just going to be a zone of congestion. My buddy Josh was actually talking to me about some cloud stuff. No, never mind. All the cloud stuff is bullish, but it would also indicate that there is support, like back at that same level. That if we retrace, you could get all the way down to 20K and hold the line, if you will. This is where he got with the cloud thing. Your target of like Future of France or whatever, the 33K stuff. So he and I were talking this last week, and that like Keynesian, it doesn't mean you're bullish. It just means it's a mean reversion on a high time frame. Also lining up with that 30 to 33K range. And I don't know, I started squiggling when I was talking to him on Friday, and I could just imagine us like tucking in under here somewhere this summer. But anyway, just a random cloud update for people that like that stuff. I know Cred loves it, so figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah, Cred, what are you thinking about?
So contextually, it's quite funny because you could make a reasonable case for the monthly and the weekly that like, yeah, it might slow down here or whatever. It's the kind of the top of the range, 200-week moving average. As long as it's above 20K, it's fine. Like Don said, the monthly close doesn't really care about 23 or whatever that level is. Above 20K is more important, but if it pulls back next month, that's completely fine. And we're sort of speaking about it very nonchalantly. Can you imagine what Twitter would look like if the market actually pulled back into 20K or even went to even if it went to wick there, like 19.8, 20, 21, whatever. Like, the market dipped today and my feed was already like, hope you enjoyed the echo bubble and so on and so forth. Which like, fair enough, is quite entertaining. And we are at monthly resistance, but like, it's always important to sort of separate what the high time frame road might be versus how that will be perceived by like intraday traders and the sort of commentary we consume. So while I agree on completely technical terms that if it does do anything other than moon and we get a visible pullback, which we haven't had yet, pretty much from the bottom, like sort of 20, 21, whatever you want to call it, is like a decent port of call. But I don't expect that to be seen as a pullback level kind of collectively. If we get there, it'll be more of, it's coming off the range high and now it's retraced a lot of momentum, so on and so forth. So, I always like to mentally be prepared for like, where's the support from a high time frame point of view, but also like what's the market going to look like and feel like if it starts to get there. But yeah, I mean, I agree with everything else. Those mean reversion targets that you mentioned are still relevant enough and interesting to me. The 23, 24, whatever you want to call it, 200-week plus monthly range high. I think a bigger picture, as long as we're above the summer range that we've reclaimed, it's just worth being a bit patient with this thing because it gives you such a clear invalidation that, if you... we're still in that consolidation, basically. So if you have super strong views, it's going to be a bit tricky. But as long as the summer range holds, I'm comfortable, giving this thing some room to breathe, pull back, congest, whatever influencer terms we want to use for like not go completely nuts, basically. But if it loses that summer range, I'll like fuck it at that point, basically. I mean, that would be a real disaster. So at least the invalidation's clear.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to picture that narrative change and also be caught up in it. Like, oh no, we missed our chance, and now it's all over, and you like capitulate right when Bitcoin's 20K and your favorite altcoin that you're like ecstatic that it's up 50% or whatever loses like that entire run, and then Bitcoin goes back to doing its thing. I could absolutely imagine that happening. It's healthy. It's really healthy, isn't it? You need to shake out more people before you can actually have more fun.
I mean, I think it's really hard to judge whether if price went up, it would fuck over people more that just sit on the sidelines, or whether it needs to go down. I'm actually not quite sure. Like, I think it's at this point where it could do both really well. Like, there's a lot of people still on the sidelines that want to have crypto, but just got disillusioned in the last few weeks, I think. And I do want them to kind of have to FOMO back in by shitty prices. But also we're 50% off the lows on Bitcoin, right? We've had a few coins go like 3x, 4x, 5x. Solana, Aptos, a bunch of others. A few altcoins actually outperformed Bitcoin on the move, not that many. So like maybe we need a little bit of a pullback, but I think if anything, you see like a pullback that is quick and quite steep, and then bounces back immediately. That's kind of like, that's the best case scenario. Like if you get like a wick towards 21K that immediately gets rebought, that'd be the most bullish. Just going up also works, but yeah, it depends on how stupid the bulls get, basically, because the bears really got like stupid at 16K. I don't know, like I saw like too many people shorting at 16K hoping for 14, whereas like, okay, this is just stupid. And if the bulls do the same, like start longing into 24, hoping for like whatever 26, 28, then maybe we do that. But I'm not entirely sure. Like for me, also just going up makes sense, which is a little bit of an odd situation. It's usually not the case, but crypto likes to do it, honestly. Like you just look at these rallies. It just likes to kind of have stupid rallies and then bleed out for ages. So who knows?
That first rally, I feel like, is a tough one to really, or the most recent one that you highlighted. Like, to me, that's the first big move in crypto where I just kind of doubt it. Like, I'm like in the that's not even conspiracy camp, like not for Bitcoin itself, but that's when Solana went 25 to 250 or whatever, and Bitcoin floated up back to an equal high, and it seems like that's where FTX really went for it, or Sam really went for it, Alameda, whatever, they're all the same person, and yeah, I agree. It's like you look at it on the chart cleanly, but I question that whole era, even though it was great for most people. It was using rehypothecated funds to do it,
Mm-hmm. I just wonder how they got the fund. Like, I mean, they sold all the way down, right? They sold all their coins besides the shitty ones that they held, like maps and stuff. I wonder what they did. Like, I wish we had a timeline, right, where they like started to dump customer funds, basically.
I feel like that at some point that seems like it would come out, right?
Yeah, it has to, and it's gonna be so interesting because we can just look at this in a completely new light, where
Right.
You could say maybe they actually dumped Bitcoin when it was breaking out at 60K, right? Like customer funds, like all of this, like they started dumping into it, which made it weaker. You could also argue, hey, they kind of like made this pump more than it should have. I'm really curious. But overall, I mean, they sold coins they didn't have, right? Which is like just artificially pushing price lower that shouldn't be lower.
Yeah. All right, Cred, can we go through some of this macro schedule?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to know?
Well, I don't know anything, so I'm just enjoying life over here.
Oh, good for you.
ignorant.
I'm jealous.
Ignorant of the news that, Jay Powell and whoever else is going to send me through. So I need to be prepared. And I'm just going to assume our audience is as ignorant as I am. So do you have the DB schedule?
I do. Do you want me to share it?
Sure. I just pulled up the dollar because I figure we'll see the results of that news here quicker than most places.
Yeah, here's the schedule.
Nice.
It's Wednesday FOMC, and these are all in UTC, as it says at the top. So 25 bips priced in pretty heavily by the market. Presser to follow, probably higher impact than the rates decision itself, unless it's a surprise. Meta earnings probably just slightly less important. The more important earnings are on the next day. We've got Bank of England. That one doesn't seem super relevant. I've traded that event a couple of times when the BOE came out super hawkish, and it did sort of bleed over into crypto, but that might have just been a very short-term edge. It might be the case that if the UK, and you said the ECB is right after as well, right, on that day. So if we get like really hawkish central bankishness from Europe and the UK, etc., or Europe as the continent, if you will, maybe there's some market impact there. In any case, if you're not persuaded by that, I think the big boys' earnings later that same day again at 9 o'clock, Apple, Google, and Microsoft, given how sort of tech heavy that is, expecting that to have some sort of market impact. And then Friday, we've just got more stats, NFP and unemployment with the estimates below as well. So it's pretty packed, to be honest with you. Like Monday, Tuesday, calm. Wednesday, the presser is big. Thursday, even if you don't like Europe, fair enough. You've still got some big tech boys coming in the evening. And then Friday, just more stats. So we'll get a decent sort of overview. And I think there's a blackout period after that for some time. So that might set the tone for risk appetite in the kind of short term at the very least.
Have they said anything to give evidence of a 25-point hike? I'm nervous because of Wednesday. Like that seems very hoping for the best type of scenario. Like, what's stopping us from a 50-point hike here? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean the market seems pretty certain for 25 based on, I think, other Fed sort of committee member comments and that type of stuff. But you never know what the actual decision will be, of course. But that seems to be the prevailing consensus.
I would endorse it. I'm just like, I don't know if that seems. It doesn't seem like a slam dunk just as a gut check,
Mm-hmm.
For the same reason that when I was thinking, everybody was talking about 50 to 75, or they're gonna go do a whole point. The whole point seemed pretty out of question to me. I think a little slower seems good, but I don't know. My gut just didn't like that. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if they come out more hawkish, either in the rates decision itself or the presser, that'll probably nuke us a bit. But the market, at least the market seems pretty confident in 25 bips, and again, the presser will probably be watched more closely for Jerome's comments.
Yeah.
But this is like back to back. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You've got some stuff in any case. So yeah, big week.
All of these earnings and stuff don't really intimidate me much. As we've seen before, like earnings can start to turn, but the stocks already did.
Yes.
So even if you're getting, some negative earnings or whatever, or less than expected, it seems easier to shake off. But yeah, anyway.
And the market just hasn't cared all too much recently as far as crypto goes. I'm talking like big volatile moves off of macro news. That hasn't really been the case. I mean, that's also because a lot of the recent data is just, the economists got it right for once. The numbers were in line with consensus. So maybe that's the explanation there. But it just seems more recently, sort of the impact has been diminishing over time now. So unless there's some crazy beat or something really unexpected, it might just be short-term volatility, which by the end of the day settles at more or less the same price. So yeah, but it's still something you want on your calendar or radar, especially if you're like levered to the tits on altcoins. You might want to keep an eye on this.
Good way to get nuked on those.
Right.
Well, there's the news. So what do we do now? What do we want to compare this to? The Dixie? I've got the Dixie pulled up. Don, I think you were back to Bitcoin. appreciating the goodness of your positioning. Um, the so I guess this'll pivot based on how right the market is in terms of expectations. This really does look to me like it wants to bounce a little bit. It's right at a level that you would think that a dollar bull would want to defend, unless you get this, we do 25 and Europe does 50 type of thing, and then maybe you could just have further continuation. But I'm starting to I guess I'm getting a little antsy that we're going to have a little bit of turbulence versus Don's prevailing hope, at least from the crypto side of things, that like it might be, too many people are sidelined, so got to get them to FOMO in higher. I'm starting to get a little more nervous is all.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Just looking at the Dixie on the 3-month, like on the quarterly, it's been really, really good. And it hit support. And I think this could be a range here, like between 100 and 105, where it's basically not decided whether it wants to come back in the old range or not. Because if it does come back in the old range, right, it starts looking really, really shit really fast. Like this would, I mean, this just looks like it. If it breaks back into range, it looks like it wants to go range low, which would be quite a massive move. I'm not really expecting that. I'm expecting a little bit of a range here. So I could see the traditional markets just kind of like calm down a little. We've seen the S&P not do too well today. I mean, it's bouncing a little bit now, but I could see that kind of like put a little bit of a damper on the crypto movements. But we've seen relative strength in crypto, right, for the last few weeks. And I could see that sustain it anyway, but I wouldn't necessarily want to be, like Cred said, leverage to tits on stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're running into 24K. That's where the first like reasonable kind of mean reversion people that bought 16, 17, 18 will pull the money that they've made out of the market. I mean, it makes sense, right? This is just the resistance level that we have beyond 20K. So it makes sense, but yeah, I think it's a little bit early, but we'll see.
Don calling himself unreasonable by his own definition.
The euro is also both at weekly and monthly resistance, just independently relative to the dollar, not in the Dixie basket. It looks like a place where if I was in that trade, I'd be, I don't know what time frame you're on. Oh, you're on 3-month.
That actually still looks good.
Yeah, it does. But if you go down to like a monthly time frame or something, it just looks like to me it could take a pause here.
Yeah, it's trading back into this kind of consolidation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
when I look at it, just
yeah.
specifically back to this this monthly level here from 2019. I don't know. Seems like a reasonable place to chill.
But it's kind of crazy how strong it looks in general, though.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't look like it's going back to 80.
Yeah, because like we had this range here, right? Overthrow here. We had like a little bit of a like wicks below the range, but in general, like this was a pretty good range from 2015 all the way to 2022, right? Just a good range, and we broke it, which was massive, and then we just reclaimed it, no problem. Which is kind of insane to me. These kind of trades I usually like. I want to be bullish this thing in general.
Yeah.
Whenever I see something that does the typical go in a range, fall out of it, come back in it with strength, like that's not something. Yeah, that's not what I want to be fading. Right. That's just if it goes sideways here, it goes sideways here. But I could see that there be another leg, which doesn't necessarily align with the Dixie like the Dixie prediction that I made, which is why I don't trade why I don't trade this stuff right now. I did a trade when we broke down euro dollar, and that worked out quite well, even though I took profits basically into resistance and now we're trading way above it. But yeah, this is kind of like this is why I'm like this is not my main market. I like crypto better.
So my next question from y'all from a crypto specific perspective is: are we getting more nervous about ETH BTC breaking down?
Well, good question. I mean, my answer to that is it's actually doing what I wanted to, which is we talked about this last week and the week before, I think, where I was like, I want to see it go to 0.057 while Bitcoin's strong. Or if it's like really, really strong, if ETH BTC is really, really strong, I want to see it to go to this support level 0.066 ish. And it's doing that right now. And if it breaks down, I think that'd be the entry of at least this cycle, like the best entry you could hope for. Not entirely sure if it's actually even going to give that or not.
Did y'all know Binance has a BTC dominance perpetual future?
No, what the fuck? I didn't.
I'm looking at it right now. It's called BTC Dom. It's existed since mid 2022. Yeah, look at this thing.
Oh.
It's an interesting product. I wonder what the makeup of it is, like if they have stables in there or if it's the same formula that TradingView uses. Or
Oh, it cannot be the same. Otherwise, you just have to short it all the time, every time.
Yeah, because of the stable market.
Yeah, exactly. But that's an interesting one. I'm gonna have to look into that. I didn't know. It's a cool concept.
Yeah, if you look at BTC dominance with the TradingView setup, like the BTC-D one, it really does look like Bitcoin wants to have a continuation here from a dominance perspective. Do y'all think there's a place for that, or yeah? What are your thoughts?
I think range high, maybe. Like there's a clear range there, right? Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's gonna make any new low and any new highs or anything like that because it's just on that chart anyway. Like the Bitcoin dominance thing on TradingView is just garbage, so I don't think it's gonna go well beyond there. And I think in general, like if Bitcoin keeps going like this, there's gonna be a pause in Bitcoin strength at some point, and then altcoins are just gonna pop left and right because people just want to kind of make back the money they lost in the bear market. People will want to trade given Bitcoin's been strong. So I'm kind of like, I don't think it's going to go crazy, but I'm still expecting it to outperform the market as a whole.
Well, sucks for me then because I just have a hard time getting my head wrapped around that. Like, I understand everything you're saying, but the logical part of my brain, the 100 IQ, right in the middle of the curve part, which is my whole brain, by the way. I don't have any on the giga sides. Just says like, what do you feel comfortable holding? And it's not like any mid or long tail of altcoins, and it's hard for me to justify serious positioning in those coins. Trading short term, sure. Like looking for, can I make plus 20, 30, 40, 50%? Can I get a 2x in something? Yeah, that sounds great. But like just being like YOLO long and thinking things are going to go ballistic is really hard for me to understand my head. Maybe it could very well be a great trade, Don. I'm just trying to express my personal bias of the other side of that. You have more conviction than ever now.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
I think that's reasonable. I don't know. Like, I sort of agree where multi-week month holds on altcoins really aren't the top of my list. That just doesn't seem right, both in terms of time and cyclically. But as you mentioned yourself, you don't need to commit to that, given how good the short to medium term volatility has been. You can almost make like investor-like returns from trading, if you will, given the size of these rotations. So I don't think you need to. Thankfully, you don't need to make those sorts of strong commitments. You know.
Where are the rotations occurring today that y'all like the most?
Oh, I mean, it's all red. I think the one Don pointed out made the most sense to me. That sort of Bitcoin relative strength ish in the face of all this. I mean, you could just argue, oh, this is just like the standard beta effect of Bitcoin down, alts down more. But just structurally and throughout this entire consolidation, Bitcoin relative strength has been good on the way up, like it's been keeping up. And then we're seeing the long tails get hammered more than other names on the dips, and that's pretty reasonable behavior, right? Like if you like crypto, you don't complain about Bitcoin relative strength, be it on the way up or on the way down, because it sets you up quite nicely for future rotations. I think Solana's interesting. I still keep an eye on Aptos and Optimism, given the sort of silly behavior around those coins, for lack of a better term. But none of my views are kind of narrative based, like, oh, liquid staking or meme coins or exchange coins. I haven't seen that type of sort of sectoral dispersion to suggest that there's enough concentration. It seems like one-off names with specific market microstructure implications, like short squeeze over and over and over again, or short-term catalyst plays on, DYDX unlocks this, that, and the other. But at the moment, and this could just be my ignorance, I don't see a particularly strong case for focusing on one sector over the other. The names seem pretty spread out, for lack of a better term.
Icebergy said something this weekend that terrified me a little bit. He said, when DeFi summer happened, the old guard bought Bitrex tokens because they thought they were next. And I think the insinuation is that
I remember that, yeah.
The old guard now will try to do the thing that worked last time, and the likelihood is something new appears. So what you're bringing up there is, what is the new that can appear? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm too much of a boomer. So the chat needs to help us out. Like, tell us what is the new guard? And I have a hard time believing it's Aptos. The Aptos looks really toppy to me. Is that what you have pulled up right now, Don? I have some banners overlaying the ticker.
Oh yeah, it's Aptos.
Aptos.
Yeah, it looks really toppy to me. I wonder if that squeeze is done and now it's just down only. Now is the time you can actually short it, but you're too afraid.
No, it's really tough. I could also see this do one more, but I don't think much more than one more. Like, if this goes another one, like just breaks this high, goes to 26 or something, I could see it just giga top. But I wouldn't want to short these in general. Like, I'd rather look for longs, honestly, with stuff that has gone up. And I don't know. I don't like it when like shorting the strongest one always makes me uncomfortable. Like, it always kind of felt shitty. I've had great returns shorting coins that have gone down more than others. And I've had shitty returns shorting coins that are just strong. I've seen a lot of people just get blown out every time they short this thing during a consolidation. If anything, if you're looking for shorts, you want to be looking for shorts around like areas like this where it's breaking the highs, and then like at some point, like into basically your brothers, like the bears get liquidated, and then you buy your brother's liquidation, their blood, whatever. I think that's more likely than just shorting 17 and trading it to. I mean, where the fuck do you even trade this to, right? Like 12 seems so far away. Like, it seems so close on the chart. It's massive jump down. Like, what's the target here? Like, I don't even.
I think it's 150 basis point hike away. I'm serious. I mean, like, that's the trade, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that works. But I think it's.
But I agree with Don. Yeah, for sure.
I have no methodology for doing this. Or
yeah, it's also a good point.
Now, if I had ultimate tooling, this is the type of thing where I would punt like a long put, right? Like some kind of 3-month out strike at $7, limited premium, and I would just let it ride. And it's either multiples or zero on an option. If we had ultimate tooling, if the powers that be allowed us to trade these things like you can trade crypto, stock assets, then that's what I would do.
But they would be very expensive in crypto, right? Given stuff goes from $2 to 17. So
the way that you can accommodate that is you could buy $7 puts, and then you could sell weeklies that are like $12 or $10, something like that, and you can earn that premium back a bit.
I'm just way too dumb to do that, even if the best tools in the world were available. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's fine. They're just good tools. I wish we had better tools. I guess that's my point. I wish we had better tools. I wish they were available to us. And I don't actually take this trade often, even in legacy. Like, the example would be, well, why didn't you do that with Tesla? And I traded Tesla a little bit, but I do tend to stay away from the things that are like super duper high premium. But those are tools that exist, and if you get excited about those trades, then there's a format out there in the real world where you can actually attempt it. But anyway, I think Aptos is done or close to it. You can stamp that.
I'll put it on the chart.
Go on. There we go.
Ledger says it's over.
Give him the Raoul Pal quote. Irresponsibly short, biggest position ever.
And it's going to go to 170 now.
Could you put an apostrophe there between the T and the S, please? There we go.
All right. What are we paying the most attention to? What's the chart to watch? Or are we just chilling this week? Sounds like nobody has high convictions for up-only markets this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's like the first test of the top of the range, however you want to slice it, monthly, weekly, 200-week moving average, whatever. And there's just a boatload of headline risk coming into this week as opposed to prior weeks. So I guess that's sort of sullies sentiment somewhat. Wow, that's 3 S's, alliteration king in the house. Anyway, I think that's the real difference from a couple of weeks ago. Like the momentum impulse isn't as obvious. And then even if you are going for momentum continuation, it's objectively a trickier spot to do it because now it's not just anywhere, it's at the range high, right? So where I like to trade momentum continuation is like, let's say you get an impulse from like a high time frame support level or whatever, and then there's a lot of space until the next level. And it's okay, but there's a gap, or there isn't much here in between level A and level B, so I'm going to be more aggressive with like momentum continuation, no pullback type of stuff in between. But then when it hits top of the range, it's like like you can take the same momentum continuation setup, but the odds are inherently weaker because you're in an area now that actually matters, as opposed to some sort of mean or range midpoint or what have you. One thing I am going to watch this week, basically this weekly open. Let me screen share this real quick.
Sure thing.
You can see this, right?
Yep.
So 23.3, 23.4 is the class is the monthly level. So it comes from the, and I know this looks messy because it's got all the levels and all the time frames. But it's just the highest close after the bounce, like the top of the range, same level that Don had. And there's some 4-hour price action around it that's quite important, at least to me. So as I've sort of tweeted and talked about, a lot of these breakouts just go impulse, consolidate, impulse, consolidate, impulse, usually even a lot more vertically than that, and don't give you a chance to get in on any sort of visible high time frame pullback. Like if we look at the 19, the reclaimed summer range levels closer to 19.5, 19.8, whatever, you're not getting much there. At most, you got this consolidation, but nothing sort of visible that looks more like that, right? So I'm paying attention to how these consolidations are resolving. And I think we've had the first maybe sign of a shift in behavior. It's a bit early to tell. But if you look at this consolidation, how it's resolved in contrast to the one that we had before it, now that we've hit monthly resistance, we have our first sign of some selling on a breakout. So you had the resistance. You had some crazy fucking TWAP get turned on yesterday, which was mad to watch. It just literally looked like this. And then since then, it's sort of failed, and it's back within the same consolidation. You can see that we didn't really have anything similar on this consolidation. It kind of just broke out and kept going. Whereas for now that we've reached monthly resistance, like slightly different because we've sort of fallen back within the range. So I kind of want to see how this resolves one way or another. And that's what makes it tricky. You're now at monthly resistance. You have some evidence of your first failed break, which you didn't have at lower prices. And then you add a bunch of headline risk on top of that coming up this week, and it's just a bit more meh. And the risk off in altcoins, even though this hasn't really changed much structurally, is worth taking account of as well.
Yeah, I like your analysis. I was looking in the chat for what people said the new narratives were going to be. So ZK stuff was one of them. Canto, which I still don't know what that means. Web3 gaming.
That means I sing in Latin, I think. No? Did I just make that up?
Isn't there like a Disney movie called that?
Canto. Oh, yeah, I think it does.
And Canto?
Canto, Cantas, Cantare, Canta. Yeah, I think I'm right. Just sing.
Web3 gaming, long awaited. LTC, Don Maxey. uh, and then
It's Don in the chat.
I like that guy.
It's just Don went quiet on his alt account. No, I think it's Litecoin, guys.
And then cool stuff happening on Arbitrum. That one clicked for me because I keep hearing of cool stuff happening on Arbitrum. Some multiples on dumb scam tokens as the Arbitrum season maybe is a thing. Maybe.
They're only scam tokens if you're not long them, Ledger.
And then I appreciate, that's right. That's exactly right. I appreciate Shibby. Ledger got a hat from Dan at CMS. Yes, that's a good one. Good catch. And yeah, those were the narratives. So nothing extraordinary yet. DYDX, that looks good.
Yeah, I mean, if it breaks out, there's a trade there of some sort, but it hasn't quite yet. You know, it's like right at the top of the range. How do you want to slice it?
Right now, it's giving me 2019 Atom vibes. You remember that when it just went to the top of the range like 7 times and never could break it.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, I bought every top of that range.
You were literally Mr. This Time It's Different.
Totally. That's my calling card right there. I don't disagree that there are some narratives that are going to stick. There's going to be multiples on them, and they're going to do great. I just don't know what they are, and I don't think it's going to carry across the market. I think what did we call it after the show last week? Cred, you called it the Mary Poppins market. Like, I don't think we're going to be that where everything just floats up. I think it's going to be unique, narrative-driven coins that have a move, and some people are getting hilariously rich while you're not. That's how I feel.
Nothing new then for me.
Yeah.
If Solana doesn't if the market doesn't get stuffed this week, one way or another, I still think Sol can be pretty interesting. Because if it starts trading back within the consolidation, which Don just bullied last summer or whenever that was, you end up finding some pretty decent levels. Like if this reclaim, and it looks a bit tentative, granted, but if the market doesn't get stuffed and this 25 reclaim sticks, the midpoint of that range is then at sort of 34, and then the Don Holiday sell level is at 48, right? So even just from a range level to level point of view, assuming this doesn't fail, there's some space to be had, even from range low to range midpoint is like 30-40%, depending on how conservative you want to be with where you target within the structure. And then, a casual 90% to the range high in some extraordinary Goldilocks bull risk market, whatever scenario. So now that I've said that, it's obviously going to close above. I'm going to long, and then it bleeds out. That's sort of what's predestined at that stage. But purely technically speaking, I think this consolidation is becoming relevant again. And that there is some price action here that could offer guidance as well and give some indication as to whether it's going to stick or not. So that's on my watch list.
$8 Sol feels a lot like $80 ETH did to me.
Yes,
a lot.
Alec just saved the coin.
He did.
I mean, it's kind of crazy seeing that. And we're like reading for a tiny bit lower, and then
I was.
Fills. I was too. So.
I was sending Ledger charts at the Pico bottom while not buying it. Like if there's ever a more
I thought you bought it. I thought you bought it.
No, I was like, everyone's like, oh, there's no support, and then I just go on the 3-day chart. I talked to you about this, Don, as well.
You did.
I was like, this is a thing, and then I just went off to live my sad life, and then I blinked and it's tripled.
Cred, I thought you were in for that. I was like,
you know better than that, Ledger.
I was like, please no, I want $5 because I was $3 magnet, but I'll take 5, and I'll just like put it away forever. And I'm looking at it at 8, and like, Cred, please don't be right. Please don't be right. I'm waiting.
Look, Ledger, as Don will tell you, if I analyze something and then don't punt it, that's the best entry signal you could ever have.
I must buy in that scenario.
Yeah, that's how Don makes all his money. He just gives me like $100 a month not to trade any of his positions, and then we're good.
Oh, that's hilarious. All right, well, shall we leave it there? I don't really have anything else to add.
Me neither.
Nope, neither. Just don't get shafted by the headlines. Know when stuff is.
Best of luck to all of you in the market. We appreciate you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Hey, hit like and subscribe. Tell your friends about this dadgum show. It's a pretty good show, we think. Check it out.